when cats feel hunger, they are the hunger they feel. They're not having the thought, "Well, I feel hungry right now. I should find a way to eat." Because this naming of their internal state by themselves is a sort of a removal, an abstraction of themselves from themselves. And we call it self awareness or metacognition, the ability to think about our thoughts, the ability to ponder our mental states. And it seems that only us have it, and maybe some pachyderms and cetaceans. And, and, and look at what happened. We dominate the planet completely. So nature gambled everything at this one feature that makes us unique. It went all in, and the gamble may go wrong, and then it has to start over another 4.5 billion years. 4 billion years of life on this planet. Now, if it's gambling so much on these dangerous, extremely dangerous monkeys that we are, then that sensed telos has to have something to do with what makes us unique, which is self-awareness. So maybe we are the eyes through which nature can metacognitively contemplate itself and take stock of itself, and maybe it values it so much that it's willing to burn down the house if that's what it takes.
There's something beautiful about that. Um, what do you think is our role with this metacognition? Is it a kind of giving it over, like a kind of surrender? Or what are we to do with that?
Oh, I
Or is
think
it,
it
as
would
the
be.
Eastern traditions have taught us about, it's about mindfulness, it's simply the awareness of it uh, takes you out of the spell, maybe of materialism.
Oh, this is rich territory. Uh, I think it would be morally reprehensible to try to get rid of our metacognition, because countless beings have died bloody, painful deaths over 4 billion years to allow us to exist. We are at the tip of the arrow of evolution, and it has been a bloodbath of unspeakable pain. Um, so to now go and spit on it and say we don't need it, I think that is the most one of the most morally reprehensible things we could do. We are invested with a responsibility like nothing else in nature, nothing else that we know of. And we have to bear the weight of that responsibility. We have to make something out of it. We must make something out of it in honor to everything that has preceded us and allowed us to be here looking at the world and saying, this is not how things should be. That, a lot was spent on getting a pair of eyes in this universe to be able to look at the world this way, metacognitively, and to run away from it is beyond an offense. It's just an unspeakable, morally reprehensible thing to do. So no, I think we have to engage with it. Metacognition is the source of our human suffering. If we didn't have metacognition, we would be living in the present like cats do. So we would have pain, but not suffering. So we pay a huge price for it as well, but we have to pay that price. And I think the Western understanding of Eastern spirituality is cartoonish in the sense that all it seems to seek, by and large, is to be anesthetized from suffering. We want to get rid of suffering. That's why we go spiritual. Not all of us, but the ones I think who really have an understanding of what it means to achieve spiritual goals, they would know that, oh man, that's not the end of suffering. You don't know what you're trying to get. If you knew it, you'd think again. But most people, they are in it to stop suffering. They are looking for a narcotic, for anesthesia, and I think that's a cartoonish understanding of what Eastern spirituality is. But even if it were not, even if this were actual Eastern spirituality, as a sort of an attempt to be anesthetized from this condition we call life, I think that's not the way to go. Then I would still think that there is a better way to go. We are invested with the full weight of nature's moral responsibility. Morality happens through us, and that doesn't make morality untrue. No, it makes it very true, but true because of us. And that is a moral responsibility level that I think most people, if they would really grok it, they would recoil from it instinctively. It would be a knee jerk reaction to recoil from it. And they would prefer materialism and banality in an absolute vacuum of moral responsibility. Whatever you did in your life, good or bad, when you die, you're dead. That's it. And nothing has meaning anyway. This is incredibly seducing. We don't see how seducing it is because we take it for granted. We think it's true. So we don't understand how seductive it is. But when our worldview changes, because there is only so far you can go with something that is internally contradictory and empirically untenable. At some point, you go like, yeah, okay, we can't sustain this fairy tale anymore. The moment that happens, we will miss materialism because then we cannot take it for granted anymore, and we'll realize suddenly how much moral solace it gave us. It basically eliminated moral responsibility from human life. And I don't think that is the way to go. I think that's an affront against nature. But there is a price for facing the truth, and that's a price that most people naively think is not there. They think, oh, it would be great if I really believe that I will never die as far as my core subjectivity is concerned. I mean, the individual self will die just like your dream avatar dies when you wake up in the morning. You don't go around mourning the death of your dream avatar when you wake up. Neither will we. But most people think that if they truly believe that the core subjectivity would survive and that death is not the end, that it would be all great. Everything would be fantastic. They don't know what is awaiting them. But anyway,
Well, what is waiting them? I mean, essentially, what I'm hearing you say is that this kind of personal responsibility, it does boil down to a level of personal choice, that there's this moral responsibility. And that has to come down to essentially the choices we're making in our lives, even if this circling back to the beginning of our conversation, even if it is sort of unfolding in a very natural way.
well, how do I put this? I think the return of meaning pays off for all the negatives. But most people do not really have a clear conception of the weight that a less distorted view of reality places on them. And it can range from relatively small things like a very concrete sense of moral responsibility. That's tough for a lot of people. But it's a relatively small thing in relation to the others. Another thing, fear of death, because death is an experience that you will undergo and you do not know what it will feel like. All you know is that all the references that make you comfortable, they are not going to be there. That's tough. That's a big thing to live with when you truly understand that this is what's going to happen. But it's also small in comparison to the other things that I can't really explain. Um, I can only talk around it. And one way to talk around it is to describe it as the vertigo of eternity, which, in our confrontation with naked reality, is it has the qualities of vertigo. Milan Kundera explained in his book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being from the 80s, won a Nobel Prize in Literature for that. It's a fantastic book. In that book, which is a fiction book, he explains what vertigo is. Vertigo is not the fear to fall. Vertigo is the gut desire to jump. And what you then fear is that gut part of yourself. You are terrified of that part of yourself that looks down and, oh, it wants to jump, it wants to go, into free fall and lose all the references, all sense of safety. And that's the fear. We fear ourselves in vertigo because vertigo is actually the desire to let go. And a confrontation with a felt confrontation, an immediate, non-mediated, direct confrontation with reality as it is, which means confronting the self as it actually is, has the qualities of vertigo. Ropes you in but it terrifies you of yourself. That it's the vertigo of eternity. I don't know how to put this. I'm not an enlightened person, but I suspect that the vertigo of eternity is the antechamber of enlightenment. And if that is so, I don't want to be enlightened. If you know what I mean. I'll gladly give it a pass.